Are Games Workshop going to use the same models that they do for Age of Sigmar as they are going to do for Warhammer the Old World? Or are they going to be two completely separate lines? Now, right off the bat, that question might be a little bit confusing to some of you, but what I mean is the stuff that's like the new Warriors of Chaos, are they actually going to use those for the Old World? Or are they going to like keep around the old ones for more cheaper, more affordable versions for the Old World? And if they're not, are the new ones actually going to fit on the bases? Are they going to have some kind of difficulty there? It's a whole big quagmire of like problems. Let's talk about it. So recently I've been making a couple of videos talking about the new Lizard Men, the new Warriors of Chaos, and in them I've been saying that these will likely be usable for the Old World. Now of course they are usable for the Old World if you can make them work. Nobody's going to be like, these Warriors of Chaos look different from these Warriors of Chaos, you can't use those. That's not really going to be a problem. The aesthetic of the new Warriors of Chaos and the new Lizard Men, not that different from what we previously had. And of course they're both made by Games Workshop, so nobody's going to complain if you went to a Games Workshop sanctioned tournament. But every time I make a video talking about the Age of Sigmar stuff and how you actually probably can use them in the Old World, somebody in the comments will come along and say, these aren't going to be what the Old World uses. And I have to think, what? If they're not going to use them, then what are they going to do? So some people are thinking that they'll just either use the old models or they'll make new models for Forge World and try and keep the cost down. And I think Games Workshop trying to keep the cost down is quite a laughable thought. To me, it's way more likely that they'll expect you and want you to buy the new stuff because it's more expensive and it will make them more money. The alternative in this scenario where they have two separate lines of like Warriors of Chaos, one for Age of Sigmar and one for the Old World, I just can't personally see it. I can see it where the models have actually diverged enough that you can't necessarily call them the same thing. For example, when they do the new Cities of Sigmar, which I believe is coming this year, I think, maybe, and then if the theme goes a little bit too far away from the old style Empire, then yes, I could actually see where they would keep two. But if they're basically like for like, as with the new Warriors of Chaos, as with the new Saurus Warriors, then I personally can't see a world where they have two different product lines that are effectively the same unit just to try and keep the cost down of one. Now, people are saying they'll try and keep the cost down because you're going to need more of them in Warhammer the Old World, which you definitely will need more of them in Warhammer the Old World. I just don't think Games Workshop care enough to try and keep the cost down so that there's a more affordable version of that army. I think they'll just expect you to buy the Age of Sigmar version. But it doesn't quite end there either. By the way, obviously you're not going to be able to use pure new Age of Sigmar models in the Old World. I think if they weren't originally in the Old World but they've been released for Age of Sigmar, there's a chance that you won't be able to use them. What I'm saying there is like the Stormcast Eternals, they're not going to come to the Old World, right? That just doesn't make any sense. However, I think in that new Lizard Men reveal, there were some skinks riding some kind of raptor. They could very easily be made as a new unit for the Old World. It wouldn't necessarily feel out of place either. New units are not going to be a massive problem, but a theme and a style that is not in fitting with the Old World, that would be a problem. Obviously, in my eyes, Games Workshop are going to want more use for the kits because then they make more money. And simply keeping the models as compatible as possible will probably make Games Workshop more money in the long run because it's easier. They don't have to make a new plastic sprue, whatever it's called, an injection mold. They don't have to worry about that. They can just be like, hey, why don't you just buy the Age of Sigmar version? We have rumours of them bringing back the old plastics, but that's generally where there isn't actually a Age of Sigmar version of that you can currently buy. I'm not personally expecting them to bring back old plastics that are sort of like the old Chaos Warriors just so that they can have a more affordable version. I just cannot see that happening. Now, I could very easily be wrong, by the way. Maybe they are going to do something through Forge World. Maybe they're expecting a massive turn in sales for the Old World. I just personally doubt it. I think they're going to treat the Old World as second fiddle to Age of Sigmar, and they'll just sort of do workarounds. Now, speaking of workarounds, there is actually a problem if they do expect you to use the Age of Sigmar version as opposed to bringing back the Old World version, and that is simply scale. It looks like a lot of these new models would be an absolute pain in the backside to rank up, and they may not even fit on the bases that they used to fit. The Chaos Warriors, for example, used to fit on 25mm bases. Would the new ones actually fit on the bases, and then would they rank up? Honestly, there's a chance that they simply won't. And in that case, you could argue that maybe Games Workshop hands are a little bit tied and they'll have to bring back the old models. However, I think they will probably come up with a different solution. And there's two solutions that they could possibly do. They could actually just change the base size. We know that the scale is technically going to be 28mm, but nothing has been said necessarily about the bases. Instead of the Chaos Warriors going on a 25mm base, they could introduce new base sizes of maybe like 30mm. Nothing is literally stopping them. They have the power to do what they want, and maybe maybe that's how they'll do it. There is another alternative in that maybe they will be inspired by other games like A Song of Ice and Fire and even their own Middle-earth miniature game, which is basically to say, hey, you can just base them on the brown bases, but we'll make you a movement tray so that it's vaguely right. And in doing so, hey, what's this? You now have an Age of Sigmar army as well? Oh, what a coincidence. Personally, I think round to square movement trays are very, very likely to happen. There's just too many advantages to GW doing that. They don't have to provide bases with the Age of Sigmar models and stuff like that, and they don't really have to worry about ranking up. That's not a revolutionary idea. Some people already do it, for example. Like I think I was watching Mini Wargaming and they had the Age of Sigmar army, but just in a square movement tray with circles in them. Worked completely fine, right? The only issue technically is when you have like scatter templates and stuff like that, it can get maybe a little bit janky, but you know, it is what it is. I don't think Games Workshop will necessarily let that stop them from making that an official part of the rules. So for me, I don't necessarily think they're going to increase the base size. I think they'll probably want to keep the nostalgia the way that it is, but I do think that they will backwards work with the Age of Sigmar models. I think they'll expect you to buy them. I don't think they're going to do a second line of miniatures that are very similar, partly because I think it would risk Age of Sigmar sales. If you can buy 10 Warriors of Chaos for £37.50, which you can use in Age of Sigmar, or you could buy 10 Chaos Warriors for £25. I'm not saying these are the actual prices, by the way. Then even Age of Sigmar players may just buy the old ones. I do not think they will do that, and I don't think they will risk it. I do think that they will probably just do something with the bases. I think they'll say, base them on circles, use these official trays, and you're golden. And then they'll probably just tweak the rules with the scatter templates somehow. Maybe they'll provide like a template of base sizes. That's a little bit weird, but maybe they'll do something like that, who knows. I just don't see a world in which they have two full product lines. They will have some product lines for the old world, but I think it'll be filling the gaps that Age of Sigmar doesn't have. I don't think they're going to be competing. They're not going to have two units that do the exact same thing. At least I just don't see it. But they will try and deal with the ranking up issue one way or another. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm very intrigued on what you think about this. But every time I keep making these Age of Sigmar videos, I'm just sick of people saying they're probably going to have two different lines, and I just completely disagree. So I may end up just pointing people to this video. Hey, I could be wrong though. Let's wait and see. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I hope you have a most beautiful, beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.